Alright guys, I am so excited for this video that I'm doing this completely unscripted. I just have my phone right here and I have Reddit open because there's something massive that just happened. I'm gonna tell you in just a second. As you guys know, next week on Tuesday, Apple is hosting their September event, and a lot of the people on YouTube are saying that the iPhone 12 is not getting announced next week. But this guy says that it actually might happen. His name is Apple Cedar. On Reddit, it's Apple Cedar 2020, and he is saying that he's the main source for all the Apple Glass and folding iPhone leaks this year. And he says that the next event on Tuesday is gonna have a huge focus on AR and some massive announcements inbound. So let's get right into this video. But first, be sure and check out our Apple product mask down below. Perhaps the biggest thing that Apple Cedar revealed on this Reddit post is that this year there are a lot of conflicting leaks and rumors. And that's because he says that Apple actually has a dedicated team that puts out conflicting leaks and rumors on purpose. So that's why Jon Prosser was wrong, because Apple is actually putting those fake leaks out there. So without further ado, let's get right into this. So Apple Cedar is saying that he would provide any kind of proof required by the mods to keep this post on here. And according to one of the mods, he says that the original poster submitted some proof, including some convos to various reporters. So they are saying that he could actually be legit. And based on what he's saying here, it's incredible. One person asked if we're getting 120 Hz this year on the iPhone. He says yes, only on the 12 Pro Max. And apparently right here, he's saying it's because on the 12 Pro, the battery life would go below iPhone 10 standards, so they chose only to put it on the Max model. As far as the shipping date for the iPhone 12 Pro Max, he is saying the end of October. Here's another interesting thing about the first Apple Silicon Mac to be released. He says that the first one is actually a 14-inch MacBook Pro. 14-inch, not 13-inch like all of the leaks were saying. Another user asked about the 12-inch MacBook, and he's saying, yes, it's gonna come out, but not at next week's event. Somebody asked about the 14-inch, and he says next week for the 14-inch, which is incredible. Somebody asked how he gets his leaks, and he says that there are Apple engineers that love to talk about their breakthroughs, and that a lot of them are respecting the NDAs and the contracts, but some of them are chaotic individuals, so that's where he gets his leaks from. Now, as far as the pricing for the new 14-inch MacBook Pro that's gonna get released, he's saying that the price is gonna stay the same as it is with current Intel Macs. So somebody naturally said, hey, you're betting against Gurman and Prosser. And he's saying that AR is the big focus for this event, and either they don't announce iPhones and they announce the glasses and new Apple Silicon MacBook and iMac, which is surprising, or they are gonna announce the new iPhones with LiDAR sensors and AR enhancements. He says his money is on the iPhone next week on Tuesday. As far as the webcams on the MacBook Pros and the iMac, he's saying that all of them are getting a 1080p camera finally. He's saying that we should look forward to AR improvements, but there's gonna be a big focus on the folding iPhone coming in the future with a multitasking overhaul, which means you'll be able to use Safari, 2 pages on one side, notes on one side, so lots of multitasking improvements. He's saying that handoff will gain a lot of capability in the future, and he also says that there's gonna be a gaming console / Apple TV hybrid coming up. I don't know if you've heard about Project Titan, but basically Apple is building their own Apple car. He is saying that Project Titan is actually an operating system by itself, not an actual car. So Apple is gonna make a car OS, and they're gonna sell that and have it on different cars, different car manufacturers, just like they do with CarPlay. Now, somebody asked why game developers are gonna put AAA games on Apple Silicon, for example, the Macs and the iPads. He's saying the value proposition for developers is build your game once and you have access to any user on any Apple device, and that arcade is gonna help with that. Somebody asked about Apple glasses, and he's saying that they're gonna look like a regular pair of glasses with a slightly bulky frame. Here's another detail. He says that you won't be looking at the glass itself. The displayed items will hang in the air in front of your face. And as far as the AirPods Studio over-ear headphones, he's saying that he heard it's coming next year, but he's not 100% sure. Now I know a lot of you guys were asking about a hybrid iOS and macOS device, basically meaning that macOS with a touchscreen. He says no hybrid device. The push will be for handoff and multitasking. It's really amazing actually, because being able to hand off any app between devices. So you're gonna be able to snap your iPhone shut and it's gonna open up on your iMac or your MacBook exactly where you left off. Back to the glasses, he's saying that the iPhone is gonna process everything. The glasses will just display the info, so that's how they're gonna be, just slightly more thick than regular glasses. As far as an iMac getting Face ID, he says it's in the works. Yes. Will we see the light of day? He is not sure. As far as the Apple AirTags, he's saying that there is no imminent release, so it might not come next week, but he's saying he thinks they're gonna come with the Apple glasses, which might come next year. But the bigger news is that Find My app is gonna be gaining AR capability. Augmented reality. So you're gonna open your Find My app, you're gonna scan your room, and you're gonna see your AirTags under your bed. You're gonna see it under your blanket, behind something, behind furniture. That is just insane. That's incredibly innovative. On the Apple Watch Series 6, the new display is getting better and has slimmer bezels. And apart from sleep tracking and oxygen monitoring, not much is changing feature-wise. Are they releasing the iPad Air 4 and will it look like the leaks suggest? Yes. Not talking about gaming. Now talking about gaming on Apple Silicon, he's saying that with Apple, the target is Apple Arcade and Apple Silicon. Silicon will enable access to the entire Apple ecosystem in one go. Arcade will evolve into a better service with AAA titles in the future once Silicon has grounded itself in the Macs. He's saying that Apple's focus on gaming is more of making the ecosystem the console. The Silicon team is working really hard to make Mac gaming a thing. Here's something very interesting. He's saying that ProMotion 120Hz technology may come on the MacBooks. The iMacs, he's not sure. And as far as Apple working on a foldable iPhone, he's saying that there will not be a folding screen. He's saying that you don't need a folding screen to make a compelling foldable device. So that means 2 separate displays with a foldable iPhone, no folding screen. Will there be LTE cellular service in the MacBook Pros? He is saying yes. That's what the Intel team that Apple acquired recently within the last few months are working on. No idea if it'll be released, but it's there. Somebody asked if the 14-inch MacBook Pro completely replaces the Intel 13-inch. He is saying that they're gonna live together for the transition period, but the 13-inch will eventually go. So it looks like you're gonna be able to buy a 13-inch Intel model, or you can choose the 14-inch Apple Silicon. And somebody asked, will there be an Intel 14-inch? He says no. Why would you put an Intel chip into your newly redesigned 14-inch MacBook Pro? So basically Apple is phasing that out. Somebody also asked about a new, more affordable Apple display being in the works. He says no. The display stays Pro for now. Here is a big one. I know a lot of you guys are asking about the iPad Pro getting released one more time this year. He says no more updates to iPad Pro this year. That is very big news. Now, as far as the rumored under-display fingerprint sensor for the iPad Air 4 or other devices, he says in display, not happening. Now, as far as the leaks of the fingerprint sensor being built into the power button, he says that the prototype was there, but it made the power button look a bit too fat, and ergonomically, it didn't really work. So they scrapped it. So does that mean it's getting Face ID? He says no. No Face ID as far as he knows. He says that the home button is gonna stay intact, but it's gonna have slimmer bezels. Now back to the iPhone 12, he's saying that reverse wireless charging is a no, and pencil support is unlikely as well. He's also saying that the new iPhones are getting smaller bezels finally, and he says that the notch is actually gonna stay the same, but it's gonna look smaller because the display size is getting bigger, at least on the 12 Pro Max. Back to the MacBook Pro, he's saying that slimmer bezels are happening on the 14-inch with no Face ID this year. Now this is some great news. The 12-inch MacBook and the 16-inch MacBook Pro with Apple Silicon, he says are coming in the spring next year and not the fall like some of us were thinking. So when asked about the iMac Pro update, he says next year at WWDC. Right here, somebody mentioned that Ming-Chi Kuo was saying that it's gonna be a 13-inch, but he says he is sure that the 14-inch is coming next week. Not so sure about the iMac. Somebody asked about Apple Silicon on the Mac Pro. How's it gonna work? Well, he says that the GPUs on the iPad are already pretty good, and that this time, this transition, Apple has a huge point to prove that they didn't have last time. And he says the performance will be at the very least comparable to the current Intel Mac Pro. As far as the future of iPhones, he says the iPhone does not need USB-C. Anything the iPhone requires, Lightning already does. So guys, no USB-C on the iPhone. He says the future of the iPhone is completely wireless. No ports in the future. Now here's something interesting about Apple Silicon Macs. He's saying that Windows for ARM support is coming in the future for Apple Silicon Macs. Now I know some of you guys really want a touchscreen on your Mac. He says that they were scrapped in favor of the new iPad Pro with its keyboard. Somebody asked about the pricing for the new iPad Air. He says yes, it's gonna start at the same $499 with the new design. Based on what he's saying right here, I was completely wrong in saying that Apple is making a huge push for gaming in 2020. He says all of that is starting next year with Apple Arcade and its big push for gaming. He says that he saw a prototype Apple TV 4K that had a Mac chip that was being developed specifically for gaming, which is incredible. Now I know some of you guys are talking about Apple acquiring Peloton and their gym equipment. He says no, there is no interest in Peloton. Apple Health is focused on the user monitoring their health. Some of you guys really want the glowing Apple logo to come back to the MacBook. He says no, it's not important. Don't count on that. Another person asked about the 24-inch iMac replacing the iMac 21.5-inch. He says yes, the 21.5 is going away, but I haven't heard that it'll be announced next week, so I doubt it. Will the iPad Air get a 120Hz ProMotion display? He says 60Hz for the iPad Air. This is very interesting. Somebody asked about the specs of the 14-inch MacBook Pro that we should expect next week. He's saying that it's gonna be the M14 processor, not A14, M14, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 512 gigs of SSD, 4 USB 4 ports, apparently. Here's an absolutely huge leak that a lot of you guys are asking. Are they gonna refresh the 16-inch MacBook Pro this year with the newer Intel chip? No, the 16-inch is staying the same until next year. So if you guys are waiting on that, you can go ahead and order using the links below. Back to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, he says it's gonna start shipping the end of September or early October. Now here's some interesting info on the Apple Silicon Macs. They're gonna have M series processors. Different tiers will exist, but not like Intel's. They're more based on what features are actually on the chip. The Pro chips will have dedicated engines or hardware accelerators for specific tasks, while something like the 12-inch MacBook will get a more simple processor for everyday users. Is the midnight blue iPhone a thing? Yes, and it's gorgeous. How close is Apple to releasing a portless iPhone? 2 years out, he says. Will the Apple Watch ever have blood glucose monitoring? Yes. Will the iPhone 12 Pro Max support the Apple Pencil? No. Pencil support is only for the iPad. Now here's something funny. He says that the Note 20 by Samsung was laughed at inside Apple when it was launched. The iPhone will definitely be a lot faster, offer more longevity, more practical features, etc. The Note 20 is just a numbers game. So there you guys have it. That was a bunch of exclusive leaks on Reddit by Appleseeder 2020. And it looks like we might actually see the iPhone 12 getting announced next week, as well as the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is just totally different from everything else we've been hearing. Now, that would be amazing. And as far as his leaks and how confident we are in them, somebody said that, what if you're wrong? He says we can all come back here and laugh at the guy who thought he had it all figured out, and he will join in himself. So it seems like this guy is very confident in what he's saying, and based on the evidence he provided to the mods, he might actually be legit. So that's very exciting, and this is totally different than everything else the other leakers were saying, like John Prosser, maybe Mark Gurman, because he says that Apple has an exclusive team. They actually have a team that releases fake leaks just to confuse everybody. So that is a big shocker that I was not expecting. So if you guys are excited for the Apple event next week, definitely click the circle above to subscribe and check out our Apple product merch like our new mask down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.